Welcome to the first physics class of this academic year. I hope all of you are doing good in homes. Let me start the first chapter. The chapter name is Measurements and Units. Measurements and Units. Measurements and Units. In this chapter, we are discussing about some measurements and its units. Do you know which were the measurements that we were using to measure the length in our area? Can you give some examples for that? Vara, Kadam, Muram, etc. Have you heard about Muram? I think you may heard about it. When we are buying jasmine flower and all, we will get the flower. They were measured like this using their forearm. So Muram means forearm. So these were the ancient measurements that we were using in our area to measure the length. Let me repeat once again. Vara, Kadam, Muram, furlong, etc. Vara, Kadam, Muram. Muram means one forearm. Furlong, etc. These were the measurements that we were using in olden times in our area. But when we're following these measurements to measure the length, we were facing some difficulties. When we are comparing these measurements with a measurement of length from other country, we will be discomfortable. We cannot compare it. Not only that, the accuracy of these measurements cannot be ensured. Then we cannot standardize the measurements. These were the difficulties or these were the demerits of these measurements. Let me summarize all these things. We cannot ensure the accuracy of measurements. We cannot compare the measurement with a measurement from other country. We cannot standardize the measurement. So, because of all these problems, we are following another mode of measurements all over the world. Nowadays, we are using another measurement to measure the length. That is what? Meter. Now we are following meter to measure the length all over the world. The symbol of meter is M, small letter M. Now we are using meter to measure the length. Then here is the symbol of meter, small letter M. When we are measuring smaller measurements like the length of a scale, the length of a matchbox, etc., we will not be comfortable to follow the measurement meter. In such situations, we are using smaller units of length. Centimeter, millimeter, micrometer, nanometer and angstrom. These are the smaller units of length. We can represent centimeter, using this particular symbol cm. Then millimeter, we can represent millimeter like this. Next one, micrometer. We are using a particular symbol to represent micrometer. That is, we are using this particular symbol to represent micrometer. Then next one, nanometer. Here we are using this particular symbol to measure nanometer. Then next one, angstrom. Here we are using this particular symbol to represent angstrom. So these are the smaller units of length that we are using to measure the smaller measures of length, such as centimeter, millimeter, micrometer, nanometer and angstrom. Then in some situations, when we want to measure the distance between two places or the distance from Earth to the Sun or distance between two planets, in those situations we cannot follow these measurements. We cannot use meter, that is, meter is the basic unit of length, but in this situation we cannot follow meter. Then these measurements such as millimeter, micrometer, all these cannot be followed in such situation, that is when we want to measure longer distances. In such situations we are following higher units of length. Let me give you some examples for the higher units of length. Kilometer, astronomical unit, light year, parallelic second or parsec. These are the common higher units of length. These higher units we are using to measure the longer distances. Higher units of length can be represented like this. Let me write here. Higher units of length. These are the higher units of length. Kilometer, astronomical unit, we are using this particular symbol to represent astronomical unit, AU. Next one, light year. Next one, parallelic second. PC. Or one more term we are using to denote parallelic second, that is parsec. These are the common higher units of length that we are using to measure higher distances. So these are all about the measurement of length. So these are all about the measurements of length. We have to study more about the smaller units of length and the higher units of length. Let me conclude all these things. In olden times, we were using different measurements to measure the length. They were vara, kadam, muram, furlong, etc. When we were using these measurements, we felt some discomfortableness. To avoid that, now all over the world we are following the standard unit of length. That is what? Meter. Meter is the basic unit of length. We are using the small letter M to denote meter. Then whenever we want to measure smaller distances, we are using the smaller units of length such as centimeter, millimeter, micrometer, nanometer, angstrom. Then whenever we want to measure higher distances, we are following higher units of length such as kilometer, astronomical unit, light year, parsec, etc. We have to study more about all these things that we can discuss on the next class. So that's all for today. Thank you.